In the world of fame, fortune, and fashion, few names have loomed as large or as controversially as Kanye West. Once hailed as a musical genius, cultural disruptor, and billionaire fashion mogul, Kanye's career has been as dazzling as it has been divisive. But for all the headlines he's made, few have been as shocking and emblematic of a dramatic fall from grace as the one that stripped him of his billionaire status. Kanye West, who now goes by the name Ye, was at one point considered one of the wealthiest black men in American history, largely due to the meteoric rise of his fashion brand, Yeezy, and its deep, lucrative partnership with Adidas. However, the financial world watched in real time as that status crumbled almost overnight. Understanding why Kanye lost his billionaire label requires more than simply pointing to a terminated contract. It involves exploring the intersection of ego, controversy, branding, and corporate ethics. To comprehend Kanye's journey to and fall from billionaire status, we must first rewind to the origin of Yeezy, his brainchild and arguably his most significant business accomplishment. Before Yeezy became a global streetwear juggernaut, Kanye had to overcome years of rejection by the fashion industry. Though already a Grammy-winning musician, he struggled to break into high fashion, encountering resistance from major fashion houses that viewed him as an outsider. But Kanye, known for his relentless ambition, saw clothing as an extension of his artistry. His breakthrough came through a series of collaborations, first with Nike and later more fruitfully with Adidas. The Adidas-Yeezy partnership, launched in 2015, became a cultural and financial phenomenon. The sneakers, characterized by their minimalist, futuristic aesthetic, sold out within minutes of each release. More than just hype, the line generated real revenue. By 2020, the Yeezy brand was reportedly pulling in over $1.3 billion annually, with Kanye receiving royalties of around 11%. Financial documents shared with outlets like Forbes estimated his net worth at over $1.3 billion in 2020, mostly based on his stake in the Yeezy Adidas business model. But Kanye's wealth, as with many billionaires, was never liquid. It wasn't a vault of cash, but rather a series of valuations tied to future earnings and brand equity. This distinction became crucial in understanding how quickly things could, and eventually did, unravel. Everything changed in 2022, when Kanye began a very public and increasingly unhinged descent into controversy. His erratic behavior was nothing new. He had long been known for provocative statements and unpredictable actions, but the gravity and nature of his rhetoric took a dark turn. In a series of interviews and social media posts, Kanye began espousing anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and making inflammatory comments that not only shocked the public, but crossed lines that even the most forgiving fans and partners could no longer defend. At first, there were attempts to mitigate the fallout. Kanye, a master of controversy, had historically benefited from the "any publicity is good publicity" doctrine. In previous years, his unpredictable statements or political affiliations, including his support of Donald Trump and his ill-fated 2020 presidential campaign, were met with eye rolls, memes, and momentary backlashes, but little lasting damage to his bottom line. This time, though, was different. The tipping point came when Kanye tweeted that he would go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, a play on DEFCON, the military readiness scale. This wasn't veiled bigotry or misguided provocation. It was overt anti-Semitism. The backlash was immediate and far-reaching. Brands that had once tolerated his outbursts suddenly found themselves under pressure to disassociate. Corporate America, increasingly aware of the ethical expectations from consumers and investors in the broader public, could not ignore the implications of maintaining ties with a figure openly promoting hate. Adidas, the most important corporate partner in Kanye's financial empire, was initially slow to respond. Facing mounting criticism, including protests and calls for boycotts, the company eventually terminated its partnership with Kanye in October 2022. The move was not just symbolic, it was financially devastating. Adidas declared that it would stop producing all Yeezy products, leading to a projected loss of over $1.3 billion in revenue. For Kanye, the consequences were even more immediate. With the dissolution of the Adidas deal, he lost the very foundation of his billionaire valuation. Forbes, which had been central to the public acknowledgement of Kanye's billionaire status, was quick to adjust their estimate. In a matter of hours, Kanye's net worth reportedly plummeted from an estimated $2 billion to approximately $400 million. Though still an enviable fortune by most standards, the psychological and symbolic impact of being removed from the billionaire list was a staggering blow for a man who had, for years, sought validation in wealth rankings and media acclaim. But the Adidas fallout was only the beginning. Other brands and institutions swiftly followed suit. Balenciaga, which had prominently featured Kanye in its campaigns and runway shows, cut ties. His talent agency, CAA, dropped him. A completed documentary about his life was shelved indefinitely. Retailers like Gap, which had signed a 10-year deal with Kanye to carry his Yeezy Gap clothing line, ended the partnership. Banks like JP Morgan Chase also severed business ties. Kanye's empire was crumbling not due to a single bad business decision, but because of a sustained series of personal choices that alienated nearly every major corporate partner he had. This chain reaction illustrates a key truth about modern wealth. It is as much about relationships and perception as it is about hard numbers. Kanye West did not lose his billionaire status solely because of a failed sneaker line. He lost it because he violated the unspoken code of conduct that underpins high-level business partnerships. In a world where brand equity is built on cultural capital and social responsibility, being seen as toxic can render even the most profitable endeavors untenable. Ironically, Kanye had always railed against the gatekeepers of industry, fashion, and media. He positioned himself as a revolutionary voice, a truth teller unafraid to offend. In some ways, this defiance made him a trailblazer. But when that rebellion turned into hate speech, the consequences became inescapable. His fall from financial grace became a cautionary tale about the limits of provocation, especially in a digital age where accountability can come swiftly and globally. Kanye's loss also prompted broader discussions around the celebrity industrial complex. Why did it take such extreme rhetoric for brands to sever ties when Kanye had been making offensive or controversial statements for years? Critics argued that companies were happy to profit from his cultural cachet when it was merely provocative, but scrambled to distance themselves only when it became a financial liability. This debate exposed the often cynical calculus behind corporate social responsibility, highlighting how money, not morality, often dictates when a brand chooses to act. In the aftermath, Kanye has continued to speak out, often doubling down on his claims and painting himself as a victim of cancel culture. But the financial reality remains stark. Without the infrastructure provided by companies like Adidas or the visibility afforded by fashion giants like Balenciaga, Kanye's reach has been significantly curtailed. He attempted to sell Yeezy shoes independently, launched controversial videos, and floated the idea of his own platforms. But none have come close to replacing the billion-dollar ecosystem he once presided over. The real reason Kanye West lost his billionaire status is not just about numbers, it is about the fragile architecture of influence, partnerships, and public image. His story underscores the fact that in the modern economy, wealth is often tethered to public trust and corporate alignment. When those things vanish, even the richest can fall. Ultimately, Kanye's downfall is a study in the high cost of unchecked ego, the volatility of fame, and the very real limits of celebrity power. He remains a gifted artist, an undeniable force in shaping 21st century culture. But his financial decline is a reminder that no matter how brilliant or bold, no individual is immune from the consequences of their words and actions, especially when they threaten the values of the very institutions that helped build their empire.